anything really to Sam because he was so revenge obsessed and so far gone. Like, he was just a jerk, really. So he wasn't available for Sam. So he made Dean be available for Sam.
And I think also in the same way that Sam wanted to go with them, I think Dean a lot of times didn't want to go.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times Dean went because he wanted to make sure that Sam wouldn't have to be the one to take that fall.
Totally.
But, like, absolutely, I think that Dean saw that and kind of registered that as, like, we need to give everything for Sam, so Sam needs to get everything, so we can't allow anything for ourselves. So I can't allow anything for myself. And so, and then in turn, John won't give anything to him. So I think that kind of registered that might be why acts of service is another thing for Dean.
Yeah, I definitely say I want to talk about, like, go through the characters, like, pretty specifically, but I just want to talk about that aspect with their dad first.
Absolutely.
Get John was
a massive turd and he sucks.
Get that out of the way. I feel like we've talked so much about John on this podcast. I can't wait till we're past season 2 and we don't have to talk about it all the time.
It's like, welcome to another week of hating on John.
Yes, exactly.
Personally, for me, I see Dean's 2 main love languages as active service and quality time.
Absolutely. That's what I think as well.
Very action-based, both of them.
Yes.
He's an action-based guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like another thing that goes into another bunny trail that I won't get into, but personality types for real. Anyway.
Because even when we see Dean giving gifts, it's not really about the gifts. Like, he doesn't care what the gifts are. It's about giving, for example, giving Sam the experience of Christmas. It's about, like, the
action of it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Meredith hasn't gotten to the mixtape, but
oh no, no.
With the mixtape, it's not really about the mixtape itself. It's about having that shared experience with Cass.
Exactly.
They've had this shared music experience.
Exactly, and I feel like that should be another love language is sharing things like your favorite thing.
Yes.
Sharing shows and music is a big way how I express my love, because I'm like, this is a thing that I like, and if you also like it, then we like the same thing.
Every time I get into something new, I'm like, sister of the week.
Exactly.
That's my sisters.
Yep. Same with my sister. I'm always like, hey, man, I saw this movie, and I'll just like rant on it for like ever, and she'll just be like, that's awesome. Like, I feel like her side of that is even if she's not interested in it, she knows like that I'm interested in it, and me trying to share it with her is me trying to tell her like that I care about this thing, and I care that she knows about the thing I care about, and then she in turn will be like, okay, she cares about this thing, so I'll at least act like I care about it. So
my older sister has just resigned herself to like be like, okay, Meredith got into a new TV show. I guess I'm gonna watch it eventually.
Right.
She'll work on me.
Yeah. Movie nights with Cass and with Sam, I imagine, but definitely with Cass. So we know of at least a couple movies that they've watched. Tombstone. Also, I had someone point out in Scooby Natural, also in season 13, that Sam didn't really have any like real like notion of the Dean Cave, but Cass like got home, couldn't find them, and immediately went down there looking.
Dean Cave. Right.
Which means that Cass has been spending at least some time in there.
Oh my gosh.
Which means that they've probably been watching quite a bit of movies in there together.
Definitely Porky's 3.
Yeah, so there's like the experience of watching a movie together.
Right. Oh my gosh. And I saw someone say something, like, I can't remember where I saw this. I think it was Instagram, but somebody like wrote a thing saying like, what if like Dean and Cass like built the man cave together? Like Dean was like having Cass include his thoughts and everything. And at first Cass was just like, oh, like whatever. But then, like, you realize, like, oh, like, this is, like, a love language. Like, oh, he's telling me he cares about this thing and he wants me involved. Like, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah, I love that, honestly.
I feel like sharing things can sometimes tie into quality time.
Yeah.
So that would make sense that, like,
that makes sense.
Really values that.
Yeah, and then this is like a real active service one, but like in season 6, doing yard work for Lisa.
Yep, I knew someone was going to talk about this.
Definitely.
And in season 2, episode 20, What Is and What Should Never Be, he mows the lawn for Mary.
Yes.
Gets absolute joy from mowing the friggin' lawn.
Like, I think part of that
was
like,
a little too happy about this.
It's like, part of it was the experience of being in like a normal family, and the other part was like being able to help his mom.
Exactly.
Yeah, do something nice for his mom, like.
Yeah, like he always did that. Even when he was just a little kid, he always liked helping his mom.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to point out another moment that I don't remember what season or episode it was, but there was that moment where, like, Cass was going through something and he was kind of, like, snipping at Dean. Dean was just like, oh, like, we'll do this thing. And then then Cass was just like, no, like, Dean, I said no, and he, like, kind of snapped, and then Dean, like, got up from whatever he's doing. He, like, shut his computer, he got up, and he, like, sat on the edge of the bed, and he was like, talk to me, tell me what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like it's on the tip of my tongue what that was. I feel
I
like
can't remember for the life of me. That moment, I feel like, showcases both how Dean is an acts of service and quality time. Like, I feel like that ties into both, and at the same time, it also ties into his traumas with having to be the mediator for everyone and having to be the therapist for everyone, and kind of having to, you know, take that on. But, like, I feel like it's such a, like, a sweet moment where he's, like, he's saying, like, bro, I'm here for you. I will sit here and listen, and we will talk this out. We'll figure this out. But, like, I feel like it shows, like, it just shows, like, how, like, your love language can tie in from your, like, past childhood trauma. So, like, with having to be that and having to give so much of himself to make sure everyone else is okay, I think ties into his acts of service a little bit.
I just want to talk a little bit quickly kind of with that, with how Dean feels when people aren't using his love language, or like when he's not getting that. When people don't want to be with Dean, don't want to stay with him, or he's like hurt or upset, he gets really upset when people insinuate that he's either left or abandoned them, because he would not, he feels like he would never leave or abandon anyone. So like when someone says that, oh, you're the one that left me, he gets really upset by that.
Yes.
He's really sensitive to being abandoned, which, you know,
gets very defensive.
Abandonment issues aside.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That could be a podcast episode on its own. It's Dean's abandonment issues.
Going to Sam, we agreed that his love language is also quality time. So, and I think he has some issues with abandonment as well.
Absolutely.
But also, like, with Dean, if someone, like, is like, I want to do my own thing, like, he's upset by that. It bothers him. Mm-hmm. He also, like, obviously has a hard time vocalizing his feelings of affection, or, like, even admitting he's at fault, which is something I really get mad at Dean a lot for, even though it could just be his love language. He feels immensely guilty about literally everything, but there are just some people he is not capable of apologizing to.
Ooh, are we gonna get to the divorce arc today?
As far as people that Dean's apologized to, Cass gets a lot of apologies from Dean. I mean, he gets treated badly by Dean quite a lot.
Yes.
He's earned quite a lot of apologies.
The prayer scene is just beautiful.
Let's just list all the characters that never got apologies from the Winchesters.
Yeah.
But I think, in particular, Dean feels he can't apologize to Sam.
Right. Oh.
The number of times Dean's done something to Sam, and I'm like, if you just said that you were sorry,
exactly.
Sam would move on.
Exactly.
All of season 9. If you just said, I'm sorry that I did this, and then didn't follow it up with, he can't even fully say I'm sorry, but he can kind of get there. And Sam's been willing in the past to be like, okay, you got close enough. Like, I can tell that was an apology, and even though you didn't say the words, I'm sorry, like, it's cool.
Yeah.
All of season 9 is post-Gadriel stuff, is Dean almost getting to an apology. Like, Sam probably would have just, like, let it go. But then it's always followed up, but I would do it again, or I don't regret what I did. Like, it's just like, if you were just sorry.
I think and this is something that I just got an epiphany about, and this is probably dangerous territory because I think it also relates to me, but we won't talk about that. I think that the problem that Dean has with words is that words kind of have a finality to them. And they're tangible. Once you say something, that is a fact. And so because it's tangible, it can be used against you. And it's got a finality to it. And it's like, you did at one point say this. So it's kind of, you being kind of vulnerable and expressing something about the inside of you to the outside world.
That's a good point.
Because then once he says something like, I'm sorry, it's like, boom, I'm sorry. And it's like, oh, wow, that's like a real thing. He feels sorry. But then he follows it up to kind of like dilute it a little bit. I'm sorry, but I would have done it differently.
Yeah.
So it like dilutes it. So it's not just he's not fully emotionally vulnerable, and he's not the one with his head, you know, at the plate. I don't know the thing, but you know, on the chopping block.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right, and I think maybe that might also have something, because Sam has more of a words of affirmation type feel to him.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think maybe also just like, particularly in the case of Sam, but also just the fact that Dean and Sam spend so much time together.
Mm-hmm.
When Dean does use words and admits that he's wrong or he's sorry, that he cares about something, Sam takes that much more to heart than I think Dean would if someone said something to him.
Right.
Like, that affects Sam a lot more.
When you were talking about the way Dean might view words, I just started thinking about, like, his relationship with lying.
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, I think someone who lies like that often would be very aware of the power that words can have.
Yeah, they lie all the time, just in their day-to-day life, even when they're not lying to each other, which they always are. They're always lying to someone all the time about who they are. Like, that's true. Wow. Yeah. I'm having epiphanies here.
Yeah, right?
And I think if he values the person he's talking to, he wants to mean what he's saying.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. So maybe that's why, like, during, like, The Man Who Would Be King, like, he got so upset with that. Like, that, it kills me every time. That is my favorite episode. But you have just cracked it wide open, and I'm going to enjoy it that much more.
I'm going to go back to, like, a more access service thing for a bit. So I just want to quickly talk about food and, like, cooking meals for people.
Oh my gosh, no!
I feel like we can't really talk about it without talking about the way that food insecurity shaped Dean, particularly both the boys. Like, Sam also grew up in an environment that was food insecure, but because he had Dean, it didn't affect him as much.
Yeah.
Dean took on this older sibling / parent role and kind of kept Sam fed.
Like, we've seen it in flashbacks, Dean giving up, like, snacks or treats. Cereal, yeah.
He got arrested for stealing food. There's a episode where someone's like, do you know what it feels like to be really hungry, like, haven't eaten in days hungry? And Dean, no hesitation, says yes.
That was the Rougarou episode.
I also feel like it kind of affected Sam and Dean in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wonder if that made, like, Sam, like, part of the reason why he's such a health nut is because he's like, I gotta make sure that what I'm putting in my body is gonna fuel me. I gotta make sure it's good for me.
And also, like, even when they had, a lot of food, it wasn't good food.
Exactly. So I think Sam he grew up with the security of always knowing he'd have food, but not with the security of always knowing that it would be good for him, and that it would fuel him, and that he'd be good with it.
Like, if I'm not going to get very much food, I gotta make it count.
Exactly. And with Dean, I just need to have food, period. I don't know when my next meal is going to be.
The more, the better.
The more, the better, exactly. Oh, man. That's so sad.
But Dean cooks for people a lot. He cooks for Sam a lot, picking up food, and, like...
Right.
Like, that's the way that they show each other the thing about, like, they could be having a fight, too, and, like, they'll be, like... And they'll wake up, and, like, the other person will be, like, gone from the motel room. And then, like, the next thing you know, they walk in, they're like, hey, I got breakfast. Like, we're still mad at each other, but, like, I brought you food as well.
Exactly.
Feel yourself so we can continue to be mad at each other.
Yeah.
Literally.
Let's talk about Sam for a bit. Sam, I feel like it's quality time because Dean's is quality time, but I feel like also he's got words of affirmation and also maybe a little physical touch. I never really noticed physical touch until the last season.
For real, I was about to, like, I think this was something I said on my TikTok, was I feel like just, like, the slightest bit physical touch is Sam's thing. And I think I said because of how he interacts with Eileen.
Yes, and we might as well talk about Eileen while we're talking about Sam, because that's who we see Eileen with the most that she cares about.
So, like, physical touch in moderation.
Yeah, I feel like Eileen's is physical touch. I feel like Eileen's would have... Like, because obviously, like, I think Eileen appreciates words of affirmation, but, like, she's deaf. She can't hear. Yeah. So I think she appreciates the words that are being said, but, like, I don't think because she can't hear, she doesn't get the same, like, gratification from it that, like, someone whose love language is words of affirmation actually gets from it.
More action-based,
yeah. So I think, like, a reassuring hand squeeze, like a knee pat, like a deep pressure, full body hug tells her more than words do.
Right, exactly.
That makes sense.
It also feels like Sam has no issues providing any of those things. Jared at least dresses Sam Winchester, looks like he smells really good, and, like, he gives really good hugs. But yeah, I feel like Eileen's is physical touch, and I feel like Sam has, like, adapted a lot into that.
Yeah, because, I mean, he did live, like, his whole life being Dean's brother.
Yeah.
And John's son, so he didn't get that, like, at all. And so I feel like getting, like, probably in, like, spending a lot of time with Eileen, someone who relies heavily on that, was kind of, like, a very, like, interesting experience for him.
Yeah, brought that to, like, the surface a lot.
Right.
I feel like Sam's just, like, words of affirmation because he constantly feels like he's, like, a freak and, like, an outcast. He needs to hear that he's a good person and that someone loves him and believes that he's a good person because...
I know, it kills me.
He has a hard time knowing that about himself, so I feel like he constantly needs to hear that.
Right.
I think it's really obvious in, like, season 4 and season 8 when, like, Dean's like, I don't think you can do it. Like, you're turning into a monster. Like,
words matter to him.
As soon as Dean says he's a monster, that's when Sam loses.
That's when I want to throw hands.
Yeah.
At any point before that, I think that they could have, like, completely overcome whatever. I think if Dean had said, you're my brother, I'm gonna help you in, like, whatever way you need me to help you to, like, not go down this road, I think that they could have turned a lot of shit around. But because Dean said, you're a monster,